Well, Stephen Chase is a senior parliamentary reporter for the Globe and Mail. He has been one of the paper's lead reporters on the foreign interference file. Steve, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, glad to be here.
Listen, of course, one of the big questions here is whether or not the government dropped the ball or if the process itself is flawed. You know, after listening today and throughout this public part of the inquiry, what can you say about that?
One of the things that's become clear is that when they conceived of ways to protect Canadians from interference, from foreign interference, they really had Russia in mind. All the examples they cited, they've been looking at Russian disinformation. And so they set up a lot of the things that they set up, a lot of the mechanisms, really thinking about what Moscow would do, and very little sense that they had very little sense that China was going to be, in fact, the foremost aggressor, as CSIS has subsequently told us. Also, we got a sense here that a real sense from them that they are trying to make the case that they weren't given all the warnings that we now know. In fact, we had this almost ludicrous example yesterday where a briefing note to the PMO contained key conclusions about China, clandestinely interfering in the 2019 and 2021 elections. And then we had the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister saying the day later, "Oh, we never got that, so they didn't tell us that."
Yeah, and
so there's a sense also they're trying to blame the messengers.
Well, let's pick up on that point, because you did point out when you were speaking with my producer a big discrepancy from what we heard from the PM's Chief of Staff last year and what the Prime Minister was testifying to today. Can you walk us through what stood out for you?
Sure. Obviously, one of the big questions is what did the PM know and when did he know it? And did they do enough to protect Canadians from Chinese foreign interference? In particular, last year, April 2023, at a committee, Chief of Staff Katie Telford insisted to MPs that the Prime Minister reads everything that's put before him, reads all the documents. Today, however, the Prime Minister had a different story, both in a pre-interview testimony that was given to us as well as his live testimony today. And in fact, he doesn't rely on reading documents. If he doesn't read them, he relies on the National Security and Intelligence Advisor to tell him. And in fact, he says, if you have something important to tell me, you have to deliver it to me orally. So a real discrepancy in terms of what he knew and how much he was told.
Mm-hmm. Now, the public portion of these hearings, they were meant to wrap up today, but they've now been extended to allow more questions to be asked of the CSIS director on Friday. I'm wondering, as you continue to cover this story, what questions still linger for you? Because, of course, the work of this inquiry is far from over.
I think that, first of all, they're bringing back the CSIS director on Friday in order to address this very issue of all these briefing notes to the PMO, which have him allegedly making dire warnings to them, but then hit the PMO staff yesterday telling us they never heard that. So that's why he's being called back. But one of the questions I have is whether we're going to eventually come up with a more substantive conclusion than what David Johnston gave us, which was that people seem to have tried their best and there were some communication problems, but really there was nothing to worry about. We have already, in the space of 10 days of hearings, 11 days of hearings, learned a lot more. We've had access to a lot more intelligence, a lot more, secret information about what happened. And I'm hoping they'll put this together in a narrative that will explain to Canadians what really happened.
Well, we continue to watch all of it. And Stephen, between now and our next conversation, thank you. We'll speak again because, as I said, you've been one of the lead reporters on this file. So thank you for the time tonight.
You're welcome.